Hello aspirants, a very good day to all of you. This is Vilasini from Veranda IAS. So friends, இன்னைக்கு நம்ம என்ன பார்க்க போறோம்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா daily current affairs analysis of 28 July 2025. So yes, today being a bright Monday morning, Monday motivation is very important. So I hope all of you had a great weekend, and let me tell you, UPSC preparation at the end of the day is all about perseverance and consistency. So yes, for today, there is a quote for all of you. The quote is, "Arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached." So, any idea? எந்த famous personality in the quote சொல்லியிருக்காங்க? So, yes, I'm waiting for your comments. Please mention it over here. Which famous personality has mentioned, "Arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached"? So, yes, waiting for your comments. Okay. So let me tell you this. "Arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached" was told by Swami Vivekananda, right? And this quote வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, it is very much in sync for your UPSC preparation. Because at the end of the day, UPSC preparation பொறுத்த வரைக்கும், you all need to arise, you all need to awaken yourself. And yes, even though the goal is very far, right? ஒரு marathon race ஓடுற மாதிரி you have to be consistent and you have to ensure that no matter what you meet the goal. So this is the motivation for today. So yes, all of you must have had a wonderful weekend. The upcoming 1 week, please remember to stay consistent and please remember to stay honest with yourself. So with this, நம்ம என்ன பண்ண போறோம்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா, the Hindu International Edition newspaper of today. So இதுல இருக்கிற சில இம்பார்ட்டன்டான டாபிக்ஸை we will be decoding, fine, and we will understand which major articles, especially உங்க GS point of view லந்து, what are some major articles which are overlapping with the syllabus. Along with that, சில இம்பார்ட்டன்டான டாபிக்ஸ்க்கு we will also be discussing the previous year questions. Because at the end of the day, knowledge alone is not important, but knowledge எப்படி நம்ம மார்க்ஸா கன்வெர்ட் பண்றோம், that is also very, very much important. So in the context, சில prelims questions and some mains questions. Apart from this, we will also be doing the daily editorial analysis for today. So I hope all of you have a clear-cut idea of what you are going to enter into. So yes, this initiative is going to be very useful because current affairs பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் உங்க எல்லாருக்குமே தெரியும், a significant amount of questions year on year are increasing in the exam. So static oda clarity as well as dynamic oda aspects ரெண்டுத்துலயுமே clear cut clarity இருக்கிறது is very, very important. So yes, once in a while if you have doubts, please reply on the live chat. I will revert to them. Apart from that, when I ask you questions, right, I expect all of you to give strong replies. Your timely response is important. Only then I will know whether you are being transparent and accountable to yourself. So please keep this in mind. Okay? So with this, let us not further delay. Let us straight away get into the discussion for today. So இன்னைக்கோட newspaperல the first page talks about a very significant article. Israel to pause strikes for 10 hours each day, allowing new Gaza aid routes. So yes, in the topic வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, it features as a very important topic from your GS paper to international relations. And let me tell you, 2023 lend this ever-going turmoil between Israel and Palestine is constantly on the rise. Yes, for many years together, Israel-Palestine issue news irundirukku. But significantly since 2023, the situation in Palestine has got even more worse. So yes, what has happened so far? What is the background? Why is it happening? We will be discussing all of this in detail. And அதுக்கப்புறம் என்ன பண்ணுவோம்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, ஏன் இந்த டாபிக் நியூஸ்ல இருந்துச்சு, இதையும் நம்ம எஃபெக்டிவா டீகோட் பண்ண போறோம். Next, let's talk about this legacy of Chola Dynasty, right? Provides road map for modern India. So yes, very recently, that is yesterday, the Prime Minister was there in Gangaikonda Cholapuram. So over here, right, he has mentioned Chola Dynasty or administration, let it be its defense capabilities, let it be its bureaucracy. All of this is an inspiration on how India should be navigated forward. As you all know, 2047 la India has an ambition to become Vikshit Bharat, correct? So in the context la வந்து this plays a vital role. Next வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, we will also be discussing from page 7 of the Hindu deep brain stimulation. Okay, so deep brain stimulation plays an important role with regard to your GS paper 3, science and technology. So yes, modern science, modern scientific developments, especially in the context of health, right? What can be the implications? இது எல்லாமே நம்ம decode பண்ணணும். And let me tell you, year on year, science and tech பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் significant number of questions, right? From biotechnology, artificial intelligence, especially developments in health. இது வச்சு ஏகப்பட்ட previous year questions வந்திருக்கு. So இந்த மாதிரியான topics can be very significant. Talking about Chola Dynasty, with regard to your prelims, medieval history, southern Indian kingdoms, it plays a vital role. And also with regard to your mains, GS paper 1, art and culture, it plays a vital role. Okay, so some major topics from today's newspaper, we are going to decode very effectively. So I hope you are all very clear with what we are entering into. Yes, so if you have any doubts, let me again repeat, please do reply in the comment section. I will also be able to look into it. Yes, and please be responsive. Yes, and so far, if you're all enjoying this video, please do like and share this with your friends and your beloved aspirants who are also preparing for this examination. Okay, so let us get into the first topic of discussion for the day. Israel to pause strikes for 10 hours each day allows new Gaza aid routes, correct? So this is the topic that we are going to see. And like I said, in the topic inga feature agudun pathingana, in your GS paper 2, international relations. Yes, so GS paper 2 pathingana, you have polity, governance, IR and social justice. So idile international relations, especially from a mains point of view, this article could be significant. And prelims point of view la kuda with regard to map pointers, I will give you a clear cut idea. Okay, so now over here in the article வந்து என்ன சொல்லுதுன்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா, it is commenting on the ongoing Israel-Palestine conflict. And here what they have said is, very recently, fine, Israel has decided to open its routes, especially in some places like Gaza, etc., to ensure that food aid could be provided. So yes, as with regard to this article, they have just mentioned over here that 10 hours Israel is going to halt military operations. Okay, and the primary aim, like I said, is to ensure that Palestine la irukra ஏகப்பட்ட population are suffering from malnutrition, right? Health contingencies. So to ensure aid can reach out to them, this has also been put forward. So in the context, yes, which are the locations where this will be accessible? Also with regard to this, right? Gaza la irukra, I mean, Palestinians or current situation yenna? Many of them are suffering from malnutrition, health crisis. This has been elaborated over here. And next, in the Mariana efforts and initiatives edukumbodhu, what are some organizations which are willing to support for aid? So here in this context, they have said that Egyptian Red Cross, Red Crescent, yes, and few more organizations are also going to actively take part with regard to providing humanitarian aid. Okay, so yes, in the context of going forward, Israel has also said that the reason why the situation in Palestine, it is becoming worse and worse, is because it primarily blames Hamas, a terrorist outfit, for being responsible for the plight of the Palestinians. Okay, so far this is what has been discussed in this article. So with regard to this topic, we need to understand what is the background, what has happened so far, and what has led to this situation. So yes, let us straight away get into decoding the topic. So as you all can see, there is a beautiful map in front of you, right? A map which talks about different countries like Egypt, Saudi, you have Israel over here. Okay, and in the context of Pathingana, there are locations like West Bank, Gaza, Sinai Peninsula, Golan Heights in Syria, etc. All these places have a very historic significance. So yes, in the points pathiyum we will be discussing. But in the context, any time you look at an IR topic, what I want you all to do is, I want you to remember the map. மேப்பை யோசிக்க போது தான் உங்களுக்கு ஒரு கிளாரிட்டி வரும். நம்ம டிஸ்கஸ் பண்ற கண்ட்ரீஸை சுத்தி என்ன ரீஜன்ஸ் இருக்கு, சுத்தி என்ன வாட்டர் பாடிஸ் இருக்கு, right? Only then you will be able to tackle questions with ease. So now we are talking about Israel and Palestine. So have a very clear-cut idea about the location of Israel, about the other countries mentioned over here. Only then you will have a decent amount of clarity. Okay, so now that the map is clear, let us move forward to understanding what has been the context. So yes, Israel பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் உங்க எல்லாருக்குமே தெரியும், there is a very ancient religion, okay, and this religion is called as Judaism. So now over here, the people who follow this religions are called as Jews, okay, Jews. So historically பாத்தீங்கன்னா one of the most suffered communities in the course of history பாத்தீங்கன்னா it has been the Jews. Fine, if I have to give you some instances, biblical evidences இருக்கு. So in the context of பாத்தீங்கன்னா even during the time of the Egyptians rule, right, Jews were used as slaves to build pyramids, to build other architectural sites as slaves, etc. This was during the time of the Egyptians. Next வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா did not just end there. Even during the Roman period, Jews are said to have been suffered a lot. And போக போக பாத்தீங்கன்னா we all know what happened during the context of Europe during World War II, right? So Adolf Hitler, Hitler's hatred for Jews, cleansing of Jewish population took place, Holocaust. So Holocaust பத்தி போய் படிங்க, right? It is so terrifying when you read about it. There were many books which came out during this time. The Diary of Anne Frank. So have you all heard of this book, The Diary of Anne Frank? Probably நீங்க ஸ்கூல்ல இருக்கும்போது நான் டீடைல்ல உங்களுக்கு இந்த புக்கை கூட சஜஸ்ட் பண்ணிருக்கலாம். Diary of Anne Frank. It talks about how awful the Holocaust was, how terrifying it was, right? So in the mari people oda records about the gas chambers, how the cleansing of Jewish population took place. So all this was happening. So like I said, one community throughout the course of its life, it has suffered terribly. So in the time la வந்து என்னாச்சுன்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா during the early 20th century, right, there was a awakening. There was a movement called as Zionism which was spreading. In the moment la basically என்னாச்சுன்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா around the world, right, Jews felt the need for their own land. So Jews வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா they were scattered around different parts of the world. So you all know even in the context of Germany there were Jews, right, which was in Europe. அதனால தான் Hitler was cleansing away many of the Jews population. So yes, during the 19th century ஒரு widespread awakening இருந்துச்சு, and Jews felt the need to come back or to have a separate homeland for themselves. In the context வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா there is also a term, okay, and this term is called as Aliyah. Aliyah வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா it refers to the mass migration of Jews back to their homeland. Okay, so what happened was in the context வந்து as time went by, right, there was a difference of opinion between the Arabian nations as well as the Zionists. So the Zionists are the Jew supporters, the people who wanted a separate land for the Jews. So here what happened was after the Jews started migrating and they started coming over to their original land, it created many problems because in the land la irukra native population வந்து யாரு பாத்தீங்கன்னா there were already people who had settled down. The Palestinians were already there, Arab populations were already there. So now with a massive influx of Jewish population inside, managing this would become difficult. So in the context la ஏகப்பட்ட historical milestones have taken place and we will try understanding the timeline with ease. So yes, moving forward, look at the timeline. So as you all know, during the 19th century, the position of Jews வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா it became very bad, right, and they all felt the need to go back to one land, and that land that was chosen was the current location where Israel is. So yes, 1947 la என்ன ஆச்சுன்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா UN proposed a partition plan. Okay, this partition plan was basically to provide separate places for both Jews as well as Arab states. But என்ன ஆச்சு, the Arabs were not okay with it. The Arabs were not convinced with this idea. So போக போக என்னாச்சுன்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா finally in 1948, right, creation of Israel took place. So என்னதான் Israel independent-ஆ declare ஆயிட்டாலும் சுத்தி இருக்கிற countries were not very happy with it. So in the context-ல பாருங்க, if you look at the map, you will notice that there are countries, neighboring countries like Egypt, Jordan, Syria, they were not okay with it. Fine, so they started attacking defensive, right, so they started attacking. So in the context-ல வந்து என்ன ஆச்சுன்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா over 750,000 Palestinians got displaced. Fine. And many Palestinians also call this as Nakba. Nakba meaning a great misfortune. So in the madri pathingana, historically many milestones have took place, and somewhere in between here we need to understand in 1962 the Suez Canal crisis took place. The Suez Canal crisis. So yes, in the context வந்து என்ன ஆச்சுங்கன்னா, if you look at the map, right? So in the location பாருங்க, this is called as Sinai. Okay, so Israel basically attacked this particular region and took over this place. So here the Sinai Peninsula was taken over. So yes, இதே மாதிரி there were major significant milestones. And now later, if we go forward, if we look at much more of whatever happened, right? Somewhere over here, again in the 1960s, in the 1964, right? What happened was the PLO started becoming popular. PLO yarana Palestinian Liberation Organization. So Palestine's Liberation Organization, Iunga they were operating out of Lebanon specifically. And they started acquiring a stronger position, okay, and they started becoming a voice of the Palestinians. Idaach. Later வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, as we go by, one significant milestone was the 1967 Six-Day War. So here என்னாச்சுன்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா, Israel, right? So Israel conducted massive airstrikes. So இந்த இடத்துல என்னாச்சுன்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா, Jordan, Egypt and Syria massive airstrikes were taken place. So later what happened was, when Israel finally had done these airstrikes, they took over many territories from different places. Just to give you an idea, with regard to Egypt, Sinai Peninsula எடுத்துக்கிட்டாங்க. With regard to Syria, Golan Heights was taken over. And yes, with regard to Jordan, Gaza, East Jerusalem was taken over. So in the context, Israel started expanding its territorial acquisition as well. போக போக என்னாச்சுன்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா, in the 1980s, right? Somewhere in the 1980s, few major things happened. So now Israel felt the PLO, right? The PLO was also being a threat. So Israel வந்து என்ன பண்ண ஆரம்பிச்சதுன்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா, they started invading into Lebanon, specifically Beirut, where the PLO was a bit active, and they tried to crush the PLO down. But யோசிச்சு பாருங்க, 1980s although Israel tried to crush the PLO, the later aftermath was it gave rise to many radical organizations. For example, there is a terrorist outfit, okay? This terrorist outfit is called as the Hezbollah. So yes, in the context of terrorist outfits, you have to remember Hezbollah out of Lebanon and Hamas out of Palestine. So later என்னாச்சுன்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா, Hezbollah came, and later this also gave rise to another militant organization called as the Hamas. So Hamas oda primary aim வந்து என்ன? They had a very anti-Israel sentiment. They wanted to be a voice for the Palestine, and over time it became very militant. And time went by. I want you all to read about the Camp David Accords. Please read about it. So yes, with regard to the timeline so far, just remember one thing. 1947 என்னாச்சு, 48 the first Arab-Israeli war takes place, 1962 Suez Canal crisis, 1964 formation of the Palestine Liberation Organization, the 1967 Six-Day War. Later the 1980s what happened with regard to the position of the PLO, formation of Hezbollah, and also with regard to that of the Hamas. Next வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, one thing that you should remember is what happened with regard to the Oslo Accords in 1993 to 95. So yes, the Oslo Accords is primarily between number 1 Israel and number 2 PLO, and it was mediated by the US. So here வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, it was proposed a two-state solution was proposed, but இப்போ வரைக்கும் there have been lot of issues regarding it. So yes, with regard to the Oslo Accord, some significant drawbacks have been Palestine refugees or position என்ன, the demarcation of territories, right? The position of Jerusalem, இது எல்லாமே has always been ambiguous, meaning not very clearly defined. So this is the major timeline, right? So when you read IR topics, especially நீங்க இன்டர்வியூவா கூட எடுத்துக்கோங்க, or even in mains, timeline and historical milestones பத்தி clear cut idea இருந்தா மட்டும்தான் you will be able to approach questions with ease. Please understand this, okay? So now moving forward, talking about the major causes for why the Israel-Palestine conflict is taking place. Yes, disputed land and borders. So if we talk about Israel and Palestine, Palestinian territories வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, it is largely fragmented. Fine, largely fragmented and divided. So yes, this is one major reason. Also interference by the neighboring regions. Next, religious and symbolic sites. So in the context with regard to mosques, churches, synagogue. Synagogue na enna theriyuma? Any idea what is a synagogue? I'm waiting for the comments. So let me tell you, synagogue is nothing but the Jewish temples, okay? So in the madriyana holy sites, especially with regard to a place called the Al-Aqsa Mosque. So Al-Aqsa Mosque, in the mari egapatta temples and shrines are good, there's a lot of conflict going on. Next, because of the ongoing conflict, the number of Palestinian refugees, patina, they have increased tremendously. So how do we accommodate them? How do we rehabilitate them? Many Palestinian refugees want to return back, but இவங்க return ஆனா Israel is seeing it as a threat to its own sovereignty. So இந்த மாதிரியான ப்ராப்ளம்ஸும் இருக்கு. Next, yes, a militant organization called as Hamas is gaining prominence. And recent times வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா ஏகப்பட்ட news articles are coming with regard to how Hamas is using innocent Palestinian people as human shields to protect themselves. So Israel is bombing many schools, many hospitals, and in the context of when many reports are coming out as to why Israel is trying to attack these places, Israel has a justification because Hamas militants are hiding over there. But according to Palestine, Israel is killing innocent lives. So இந்த மாதிரியான divided opinion கூட அதிகமா இருக்கு. And yes, with regard to geopolitical interests, so talking of which, right, if we talk about US வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா has always seen Israel like a big brother, right? So US and Israel, they have a very good relationship, and US has always backed Israel. But if you talk about other countries, சுத்தி இருக்கிற Arab nations, right? If you talk about Egypt, if you talk about Syria, if you talk about Jordan, etc., they have differences of opinion because they have always sided with Palestine's cause. Okay? So yes, talking about the current conflict. So let me tell you what happened in 2023. So in the context of புரிஞ்சா மட்டும்தான் ஏன் இது இப்போ வரைக்கும் நடந்திருக்குன்னு நமக்கு ஒரு clarity இருக்கும். So please understand, somewhere in October 7, 2023, okay, Hamas attacked Israel massively. Okay, so என்ன context ன்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா, Israel has a huge well-developed missile system called as the Iron Dome. So Iron Dome மாதிரி ஒரு structure இருந்து கூட there was a massive failure. Why? So ஏன் there was a massive failure with regard to this context ன்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா, number one, intelligence failure on the side of Israel. So Israel side there was a massive intelligence failure. Yes, and also Benjamin Netanyahu, right? So he is the Prime Minister of Israel. உள்ளேயே there were a lot of confusions, right? So Israelites were confused about the government, what is happening inside, right? And also with regard to this missile system a stronger develop பண்ணிருந்தாங்க, but there were some gaps, right? So in the context என்னாச்சுன்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா, Hamas decided to go all offensive. So என்ன பண்ணாங்க, through land, through boats, they raided in. Okay, they raided in and they took over many Israeli civilians as hostages. Many people died. Many instances like this happened. So it started off with Hamas triggering. Hamas oda triggerல தான் அது ஆரம்பிச்சது. So yes, in the context of வந்து there were many news articles, right? And there was a very beautiful takeaway. என்ன டேக்அவேன்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, Israel says that the reason why this failed was because of our own internal issues. So யோசிச்சு பாருங்க, ஒரு வீட்டுக்குள்ள சண்டை இருந்துச்சுன்னா it is very easy for any outsider to invade in. So Hamas took this as an opportunity to invade because of the internal chaos happening within Israel. So this was one major reason. அங்க ஆரம்பிச்ச ஒரு instance தான் has triggered so much of chaos and havoc till date. So in the context, what was Israel's response? Talking about Israel's response, number one, constant strikes on Gaza, right? Heavy bombing on civilian infrastructure, schools are irukattum, hospitals are irukattum, heavy bombing. And the crisis was so bad that many UN agencies have called this as a humanitarian disaster. That was how terrific the crimes were. In the context வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, ஏகப்பட்ட பேரு displace ஆயிருக்காங்க. Fine. 2.2 million people in Gaza have been affected. Many children have been affected. Food starvation, poverty, unemployment, poor hygienic conditions, malnutrition, name it, Palestinians are suffering. So இது எல்லாமே இப்போ வரைக்கும் நடந்திருக்கு. Next, பாத்தீங்கன்னா, the follow-up. What has been the global response with regard to this? So yes, if we talk about Israel, Israel is clear. Israel has said that the reason why this is happening is because they are blaming the Hamas, and they say Hamas has been using innocent Palestinian people as human shields. US, which was always supporting the Israel, continues to support but says that ceasefire தேவை, stop the shelling, stop the bombing, let there be ceasefire. Talking about European Union, United Nations, they have also condemned Israel's actions and they are saying to go for ceasefire. Arab countries பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் கூட they have also said go for a ceasefire. Recently, President Emmanuel Macron, right, from France, அவர் என்ன சொல்லியிருக்காருன்னா he will recognize Palestine as an independent state by September 2025. With regard to India, India has said that yes, Israel has the right to defend itself, but an ultimate ceasefire is regarded. Okay, so in the context, it says that humanitarian aid is required, two-state solution a promote பண்ணணும், and also you won't believe it has also provided food and medical supply to Gaza through Egypt. In the Mari initiatives India has been doing. So please think about it. United Nations Security Council நீங்க கேள்விப்பட்டிருக்கீங்க, right? So is India a permanent member to the UNSC? Can you all reply on the comments below? Is India a permanent member to the UNSC? Any idea? Okay, so India is not a permanent member to the UNSC, but India wants to become one. So in the context, what is India's stance on many issues also matters. Okay, so far we have decoded this topic in detail. So in the context of பொறுத்த வரைக்கும், why was this article specifically news? The idea was there will be a 10-hour daily pause on shelling, on strikes, okay, by Israel, and this will specifically be between 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. எதுக்காக? aid delivery காக. So in the case, like 8 corridors have been opened up in Gaza, right? Such as the Al-Mawasi. In the இடத்துல they have opened up 8 corridors. So many Egyptian, Egypt, there's an agency called as the Red Crescent, UN aid agencies. They can come and they can ensure that humanitarian aid is provided. So இதுதான் இந்த ஆர்டிக்கலோட context. So in the context, we have clearly decoded what has been the position of Israel and Palestine. Why has the crisis taken place? என்ன significant causes for this particular instance of taking place, and why was this topic in news? இதை வந்து நம்ம clear-ஆ decode பண்ணிட்டோம். Next வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, with regard to the way forward, so as an aspirant, let me tell you, நீங்க எல்லா டாபிக் அனலைஸ் பண்ணும்போது ஒரு 360-degree holistic view தேவை. அப்போ மட்டும் தான் உங்களுக்கு கிளாரிட்டி இருக்கும். ஸோ இந்த கான்டெக்ட்ல ஒரு இஷ்யூ பார்த்துட்டோம், என்ன நடக்குதுன்னு புரிஞ்சுக்கிட்டோம். ஸோ நெக்ஸ்ட் வி ஷுட் ஆல்சோ திங்க் ஆஃப் அ வே ஃபார்வர்ட். வாட் இஸ் தி வே ஃபார்வர்ட்? பிகாஸ் நீங்கள் ஜிஎஸ்ல ஆன்சர்ஸ் எழுதினா கூட optimistic conclusions matter a lot. So if your conclusions are not going to have a positive tone or a way forward, it will not look good. So in the context of talking about the ongoing situation, yes, you and me will agree ceasefire is required, right? As civil servants, having a certain degree of empathy is also important. War is not the only solution. So yes, ceasefire தேவை. Next வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, peace talks should be promoted, right? Two-state solution ஓட scope இன்னும் further-ஆ we can decode and see what can be done. And yes, redevelopment of Gaza-க்கு we have to take initiatives. aid வந்து better-ஆ promote பண்ண try பண்ணணும். All this needs to be an effective way forward. So yes, இப்போதைக்கு பாத்தீங்கன்னா இந்த டாபிக்கை நம்ம ரொம்ப holistically decode பண்ணிட்டோம். From the timeline to historic milestones to causes to a way forward, we have decoded this topic in detail. So what I want you all and what I request you all to do is please go back and read about Israel-Palestine, right? The ongoing issue, enna causes, what could be a potential way forward. Read about all of this. Try to understand the background. So in the context, the previous year questions are paatharla. So yes, as you all can see, there is one 2018 mains question which came from your GS paper 2. India's relations with Israel have of late acquired a depth and diversity which cannot be rolled back. Discuss. So discuss பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் you have to discuss the topic in detail, a good intro, a strong conclusion and certain points agreeing to this. இது ஒரு 10 mark question கேட்டிருக்காங்க, which means 150 words that you have to write this answer, and this was a 2018 question. Next, also look at this, a 2015 map-based questions. Which of the following countries of Southwest Asia does not open out to the Mediterranean Sea? So in the context, Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, Israel. So here the answer is Jordan. Okay, so questions like this can come, you need to watch out. Yes, so map ayum mind la vechukonga. So with this particular topic is done. Yes. Okay, so no, it's not. UV Speaks has replied, good. Okay, so now in this context, right, let's move forward. So GS paper 1, art and culture, as well as with regard to your medieval history, Southern Indian kingdoms, which is a topic paaka porom. Legacy of Chola Dynasty provides a roadmap for modern India, says our Prime Minister Modi. Okay, so now in this context, we all know that Sunday, that is yesterday, the Prime Minister had visited, right? So in the context, what was his insights on the Chola Empire and Chola Dynasty? இதுதான் அந்த ஆர்டிக்கலை டிஸ்கஸ் பண்ணியிருக்காங்க. பட் வித் ரிகார்ட் டு யுவர் ப்ரிலிம்ஸ் அண்ட் மெயின்ஸ், வாட் இஸ் ரிக்வயர்ட் அப்படின்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, டு நோ அபவுட் தி சதர்ன் இந்தியன் கிங்டம்ஸ், தி சேராஸ், சோலாஸ், பாண்டியாஸ், இவங்களோட பியூரோக்ரஸியா இருக்கட்டும், இவங்களோட மிலிட்ரி மைட்டா இருக்கட்டும், இவங்களோட அட்மினிஸ்ட்ரேஷனா இருக்கட்டும், இவங்களோட காயின் சிஸ்டமா இருக்கட்டும், ஃபேமஸ் இன்ஸ்கிரிப்ஷன்ஸ், ஆல் திஸ் இஸ் வெரி இம்பார்ட்டன்ட். ஓகே, ஸோ இந்த கான்டெக்ட்ல வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, பேசிக்லி ஒன் சிம்பிள் டேக் அவே ஃப்ரம் திஸ் இஸ் தட் our Prime Minister has said that we need to learn from the Chola Empire. The Chola Empire had set a beautiful foundation for defense capabilities. உங்க எல்லாருக்குமே தெரியும் சோலாவோட நேவி மைட் பத்தி, their bureaucracy, right, their economic systems, right, இது எல்லாமே can be taken as an inspiration for us to develop modern India. Not just that, so in the context of economic advancements பத்தி பேசுறாரு. He specifically talks about Rajaraja Chola and Rajendra Chola and their contributions to different temples like the Brihadishwara temple as well as the Gangai Konda Cholapuramla இருக்கிற temple. All this has been discussed. Next வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, they have gone forward. They've also spoken about democracy in Cholas. So இங்க வந்து the article mentions about a system called as Kudavolai system. So இங்க வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, local representatives were elected by the people. So yes, as being a mother of democracy, he calls the Chola dynasty as one. So this is also very significantly important. And next வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, what are few things that we can learn from them? So all this has been cited in this particular article. So in the context, let us learn in detail about few major points with regard to the Chola dynasty. Okay, so historically வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, the Chola empire was geographically situated between two rivers. என்ன rivers ன்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா, Pennar and Vellar rivers. Okay, so இங்க வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, one of the earlier capitals of the Chola empire was Urayur. And Urayur எதுக்கு ஃபேமஸா இருந்துச்சுன்னா, for cotton trade. Yes, and this basically got developed as a major center for promoting cotton trade. So in the context வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, the earliest founder, okay, his name is regarded as Vijayalaya Chola. So இவர் வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, he was earlier a feudal lord under the Pallava empire, and when he saw that the Pallavas and the Pandyas were weakening, he took the advantage, and in the context the Chola empire was being crafted. So after this ஏகப்பட்ட emperors வந்தாங்க, there were multiple rulers and they contributed significantly. In the context it discussed primarily about two major rulers. So yes, talking about Rajaraja Chola, as we all know, Cholas oda navy might was very good. And yes, South Asian contacts வந்து Rajaraja Chola வந்து promote பண்றதுக்கு ரொம்ப help பண்ணாரு. So what he did was he conquered territories, especially Sri Lanka, Maldives, இந்த இடத்துக்குலாம் extend பண்ணாங்க. Yes, அவரோட bureaucracy ரொம்ப efficient-ஆ இருந்துச்சு. Administration was also very effective, and he also played a major role in the construction of the Brihadishwara temple, which is located in Tanjavur. இதே கான்டெக்ட்ல வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, if you talk about Rajendra Chola, so Rajendra Chola வந்து என்ன பண்ணாரு, அவரோட அப்பாவோட லெகசியை ஃபர்தரா கண்டினியூ பண்ணாரு. நேவி மைட்டை இன்னும் ஸ்ட்ராங்கா டெவலப் பண்ணாரு. சவுத் ஈஸ்ட் ஏஷியன் கான்டாக்ட்ஸை ஃபர்தரா டெவலப் பண்ணாரு, எஸ்பெஷலி வித் ரிகார்ட் டு கான்டாக்ட்ஸ் வித் தி ஸ்ரீ விஜயா எம்பையர். ஸோ இது எல்லாமே நடந்துச்சு. Next, one more interesting thing was northern territories கூட he tried to go and annex, expanding the horizons and the territorial extent of the Chola empire. And in the context வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, he also built a new capital at Gangai Konda Cholapuram and also laid the foundation of one of the temples found over here. So yes, with regard to this Chola empire oda some characteristic features, the founder, some major rulers, இவங்களோட contributions, இது எல்லாமே நம்ம டீடைல்டா அண்டர்ஸ்டாண்ட் பண்ணியிருக்கோம். Next, with regard to this, the simple takeaway from this article, like I said, how can the Chola empire inspire modern day governance, right? What are the learnings from the Chola empire which India can capitalize on for its future growth? இது எல்லாமே are reflections of this particular article. Yes, so all of this has been discussed in detail in the article. Please go through. Also read about major port towns in the Chola empire, some major wars that they had, famous inscriptions. இது பத்தியும் ஒரு நல்ல clarity வந்து develop பண்ணிக்கோங்க. Okay, with regard to this, there is a previous year question. 2025 prelims கேட்ட question தான். Who among the following led a successful 16 military campaigns against the kingdom of Sri Vijaya, the powerful maritime state which ruled the Malay Peninsula, Sumatra, Java and neighboring islands. இதை நான் இந்த ஆர்டிக்கலையும் டிஸ்கஸ் பண்ணேன். If you had listened carefully, you would know the answer. So yes, I'm waiting for the response. Any idea what is the correct answer? Option A, Amoga Varsha. Option B, Pratapa Rudra from Kakatiyas. Option C, Rajendra I from the Chola Dynasty. And option D, Vishnu Vardhana from the Hoysalyas. So yes, what is the correct answer for this? Any idea? I'm waiting for your responses. So what is the answer, guys? Please reply. Option A, B, C or D. What is the correct answer? So yes, in this context, the correct answer is option C, Rajendra I. Okay, so idu patti naam இந்த டாபிக்லயும் effective discuss பண்ணிருக்கோம், right? We just saw this in detail. So இந்த மாதிரியான questions examல வரும். So have a clear-cut idea of what the demand of the exam is, what is expected, then it will become much more easy for you. Okay, yes. So now moving forward, let us talk about this. So உங்க GS paper 3 science and technology பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் ப்ரிலிம்ஸ்லையும் சரி மெயின்ஸ்லையும் சரி நிறைய டாபிக்ஸ் வருது, எஸ்பெஷலி வித் ரிகார்ட் டு ஆர்டிஃபிஷியல் இன்டெலிஜென்ஸ், பயோடெக்னாலஜி, மேசிவ் டெவலப்மெண்ட்ஸ் இன் சயின்ஸ், ரிசர்ச், ஸ்பேஸ் சயின்ஸ், இது பற்றி இன்னும் நிறைய ஆர்டிகல்ஸ் வருது. So in the context, one topic which talks about science and technology and also its relationship with health is this topic, which is deep brain stimulation, nudging neurons. Okay, deep brain stimulation, nudging neurons. So in the context, deep brain stimulation na enna? So many times UPSC இந்த மாதிரி questions வருது. The term deep brain stimulation seen in news relates to which of the following? A, B, C, D. இந்த மாதிரி சில options கொடுப்பாங்க, right? So here you need to have a very clear-cut idea of what these terms are. So yes, this article talks about number 1, deep brain stimulation na enna? How does it function? அது பத்தி உங்க பேசியிருக்காங்க. Okay, next one, deep brain stimulation ஓட advantages என்ன? Right? What can it be used to treat? என்ன மாதிரியான diseasesக்கு வந்து deep brain stimulation நம்ம effectively யூஸ் பண்ணலாம். Next, on the other hand, yes, why is deep brain stimulation very effective? இதுல வந்து better ஆக்குறதுக்கு what can be done? So overall இந்த article வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா இது பத்தி தான் பேசுது. So இந்த மாதிரியான topics especially under the science section of the Hindu paper, they can be significant because science and tech lendu ஏகப்பட்ட questions examல வருது. So in the context வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, let us first understand what is deep brain stimulation. Okay, so basically in the picture பாருங்க, you'll get a very clear idea. As you can see, right, chest கிட்ட, right, inside the body near the chest, they are keeping a device like a pacemaker. So all of you know pacemaker is used for the heart, right? So pacemaker மாதிரியான ஒரு device, right? It is kept on the upper region of the chest. இது வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, it is connected to many electrodes which are placed in the brain, in different regions of the brain. And in the device என்ன பண்ணுன்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா, it will release mild electric impulses. Okay, mild impulses will be released and this can be used to stimulate the brain to like work on certain issues that the brain has. So இதை பத்தி டீடைல்டா அனலைஸ் பண்ண ட்ரை பண்ணலாம். So basically brainல வந்து சில electrodes நம்ம implant பண்ண போறோம் and they will be connected to a device similar to a pacemaker. So idea வந்து என்ன? சில disorders associated with neurological functions, right, brain signals ஓட associatedா இருக்கிற சில disorders வந்து இதை வச்சு நம்ம effectively rectify பண்ணலாம். Okay, so now here என்ன மாதிரியான movement disorders இல்ல brain related disorders இதை யூஸ் பண்ணலாம்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, number 1, Parkinson's disease, essential tremors, dystonia, right? So Parkinson's disease, involuntary movement ரொம்பவே அதிகமா இருக்கும். People's hands become shaky, right? அவங்களோட movement, right, will become very ரொம்ப impulsive இருக்கும், right? So all of this tremors and dystonia has to do with sudden movements, sudden muscle contractions and movement, right? So deep brain stimulation can be used to address these kind of problems. And also on the pathina, it has been approved for studies. Please understand, for study, right? For obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD. நிறைய பேருக்கு இருக்கு, கரெக்டா? லைக் ஒரு பொருளை ஒரு இடத்துல தான் இருக்கணும், அது வேற எந்த இடத்துலயும் இருக்கக்கூடாது. அது ஏதாவது ஒரு பொருள் லைட்டா மிஸ்மேட்ச் ஆயிருந்தாலுமே நம்ம போய் அதை வந்து அட்ஜஸ்ட் பண்ணணும்னு நினைக்கிறோம். So OCD, depression, epilepsy. Epilepsy is also to do with severe movements, like random movements body la romba adhigama irukum. It is to do with that. Yes, and how DBS works, இப்பதான் நான் சொன்னேன், right? Pacemaker மாதிரி ஒரு device, it will release certain impulses which will reach basically to different electrodes placed in the brain. So basically abnormal signals எல்லாமே rectify பண்றதுக்கு இது யூஸ்ஃபுல்லா இருக்கும். And the biggest advantage is that இது வந்து ஒரு surgery இல்ல, right? It can be on and off anytime. So in the case of long-term damages will not be there, right? And yes, DBS மாதிரியான இருக்கிற effective applications வந்து இன்னும் கொஞ்சம் effective-ஆ study பண்ணணும். Better research and development needs to be done before such products are being allowed. So in the context, yes, the article basically says more studies need to be done in the context of DBS, how it can be made better and all of that, right? So in the madriyana scientific technological developments, anything which is there in the news, you need to have a very clear cut idea. So yes, 3 major topics from the newspaper effectively decode pannidom. With this, the GS topics for the day are officially done. So yes, next வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, what we will be doing with this is that we will be looking at the editorial analysis for the day. So yes, the Hindu editorial analysis for your 28 July 2025. So the topic of discussion for today, yes, is a topic from your GS paper 2, international relations. In the topic வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, it talks about Russia's changing dynamics and relationship with that of Afghanistan. So all of you know who Afghanistan is currently under control, right? It's under the Taliban regime. Yes. So in the context, what has been the ongoing relationship? எப்படி relationship change ஆயிருக்கு over the current years, and Indiaக்கு what will be the implications of this particular relationship? இதுதான் இந்த டாபிக்ல effectively discuss பண்ணிருக்காங்க. So yes, before we analyze this topic, there are few things that we need to understand in detail. So please remember, when we talk about editorials, right, what are some fundamental rules that we need to keep in mind? Editorials are பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் what are some major rules that we need to keep in mind? So in the context வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, there is a important acronym. என்ன acronym? It's called as code. CODE code. So let me tell you, நீங்க பார்க்க போற எல்லா editorialsக்கு வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, there will be a core issue, right? Every editorial will talk about a core issue. You can also call it as context. Okay, what is the context of the editorial? Next, O வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, it talks about the opinion. So in the context வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, every author who's basically writing this editorial will have an opinion of his own or her own, right? So what is the opinion? இந்த opinions வந்து நம்மளுக்கு எப்படி யூஸ்ஃபுல்லா இருக்கும்? எக்ஸாம்ல வந்து நம்ம சஜஷன்ஸ் ஆவோ, வே ஃபார்வர்ட் ஆவோ, காசஸ் இல்ல எஃபெக்ட்ஸை வந்து எக்ஸ்பிளைன் பண்றதுக்காகவோ இதை நம்ம யூஸ் பண்ணலாம். நெக்ஸ்ட் வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, D basically stands for data, right? So editorialsல இருந்து உங்களோட ஆன்சரோட குவாலிட்டியை என்ஹான்ஸ் பண்றதுக்கு you can get significant data and facts. Make the best use of it. And third வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா is E. E basically stands for editorial takeaways. Editorial takeaways. So yes, every editorial will have a significant takeaway. In the takeaways now are most important with regard to your exam. Okay, so talking about editorial takeaways, once you have a very clear cut idea how we are going to analyze the editorial, core issues பத்தி பேச போறோம், ஒப்பீனியனை வந்து பார்க்க போறோம், டேட்டா வந்து நம்ம படிக்க போறோம், and editorial takeaways நம்மளுக்கு clear cut idea தெரிஞ்சிருச்சு. Next, in the editorial takeaways are what is going to be useful for your exam. So editorial takeaways நம்ம எப்படி categorize பண்ணா நம்மளுக்கு யூஸ்ஃபுல்லா இருக்கும் for the exam ன்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா, there is an acronym. இதுக்கு இருக்கிற acronym வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, it is called ICES. Okay, so here in this context, if I take it, your editorial takeaways can be divided into ICES. So when I talk about I for issues, I for issues, என்ன issues? C for causes, இந்த issue நடக்கிறதுக்கு என்ன causes? E for effects, what are the implications of this issue? And S, if I talk about S, it is nothing but suggestion. Okay, and also we can bring this under the scope of solutions, right? So every editorial that we see will be analyzed this way. So first remember code, core issues enna, opinion enna, what is the data, what is the takeaway, And next your takeaways. Random notes எழுதுனா பத்தாது. Exam point of view ல எப்படி structure பண்றோம் அங்க மட்டும் தான் இருக்கு. So in the context, we will divide this into ICES, where I stands for issue, C for causes, E for effects, and S for suggestions and solutions, right? So in the context, let us understand this particular topic. Okay, so now if you look at this particular editorial over here, basically இங்க என்ன பேசியிருக்காங்கன்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா, recently வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா Russia has recognized, right, has announced the recognition of Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan. Okay, so this is one. Next, இவங்களோட relationship early 90s to 2001 length till now, how has the timeline basically evolved? What has been the relationship so far? Significant milestones என்ன? What was Russia's stance initially? What is Russia's stance now? இது எல்லாமே இங்க இருந்து எஃபெக்டிவா டீடைலா பேசியிருக்காங்க. Next, they have also said, why has Russia been leaning close towards Afghanistan? என்ன significant reasons? Informal conversationsல கூட engage பண்ணியிருக்காங்க. Why? அதுக்கு இருக்கிற ரீசன்ஸை வந்து they have analyzed over here. Okay, next வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா they have also spoken about what has been the basis for this particular conversations, right? And yes, Russia வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா even till date it has kept Taliban under its terror list. Okay, although it is engaging in discussions with them. So far, what has been the discussion so far, and finally ties with India. So நீங்க படிக்கிற எல்லா IR டாபிக்கையும் you have to link it with the relationship with India. For example, Russia-Ukraine crisis, impact on India; Israel-Palestine conflict, impact on India; Russia-Afghanistan becoming close, implications on India. Because at the end of the day, நீங்க UPSC க்கு படிக்கிறீங்க, so India's interlinkage also matters over here. This also has been discussed in this article. So I hope all of you are getting a very clear-cut idea of what we are entering into. Okay, so now in this context, yes, talking about the context of this article, right? July 3, 2025, என்னாச்சுன்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா, Russia has officially recognized the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan, which is led by the Taliban. Okay, so earlier, like I said, timeline நம்ம trace பண்ண போறோம். So in the 1990s, என்னாச்சுன்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா, Russia had opposed the Taliban, right? US ஓட ஸ்டான்ஸையும் ரஷ்யா எடுத்திருந்தாங்க, and they supported many anti-Taliban outfits. For example, Northern Alliance ஒரு grouping இருந்துச்சு, அவங்களெல்லாம் support பண்ணாங்க. And yes, like I said, Russia continues to keep Taliban in its terrorist group. So இந்த மாதிரியான developments ஆச்சு. How did the policy shift? So 2000s வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா through Pakistan, right, Russia started having unofficial talks. So main aim என்ன? Islamic State of Khorasan இவங்கள காம்பேட் பண்ணணும். ஸோ ரீட் அபவுட் இஸ்லாமிக் ஸ்டேட் ஆஃப் கொராசன், ட்ரக் டிராஃபிக்கிங், இந்த மாதிரியான இஷ்யூஸை டேக்கிள் பண்ணுறதுக்கு தே வாண்டட் டு ஹேவ் டெலிபரேட் கான்வர்சேஷன். ஆல்சோ எஸ், மாஸ்கோ ஃபார்மேட் டாக்ஸ் ரஷ்யா வந்து ஹோஸ்ட் பண்ணாங்க. இதில் கூட தே ட்ரை டு பிரிங் இன் தாலிபான் இன்டு சம் டிஸ்கஷன்ஸ். அண்ட் லேட்டர், although 2021 less after Taliban had taken over Afghanistan, yes, Afghanistanல பாத்தீங்கன்னா that is basically in Kabul, the Russian embassy is still there. Why? Because Russia feels it is towards strategic tolerance. Okay, so இதுதான் ரஷ்யாவோட ஸ்டான்ஸ். ஸோ இந்த கான்டெக்ட்ல earlier ரஷ்யா இருந்த ஸ்டான்ஸ் நடுவில் it was leaning towards, and now it has leaned more. Why? ஸோ இது எல்லாமே நம்ம புரிஞ்சுக்க ட்ரை பண்ணணும். ஸோ எஸ், why did Russia recognize? ஸோ யோசிச்சு பாருங்க, earlier, before, like, you know, Taliban took over Afghanistan, who was there? It was US, right? US was largely involved in the affairs of Afghanistan. So US suddenly poitanga, a vacuum has been created, right? So Russia feels that in the time advantage eduthu, it can strengthen its position over here, right? It can make its position strong over here. Also, இதே கான்டெக்ட்ல வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, Russia also believes that right now it is only Taliban which could be a viable power in Afghanistan. இதையும் வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா Russia strongly believes. So இந்த மாதிரியான developments, and also yes, talking about controlling Central Asian regions, also to make sure that Russian exports are reaching South and Southeast Asia, Afghanistan could be a gateway. So இந்த மாதிரியான significant reasons-காக Russia has been recognizing Taliban. This is what has been discussed in the article. So yes, what about the notion of other countries? So the author of this article என்ன சொல்றாருன்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா, ரஷ்யா எடுக்கிற அதே ஸ்டான்ஸ் வந்து சைனா அண்ட் அதர் சென்ட்ரல் ஏஷியன் கண்ட்ரிஸ் எடுக்கிறதுக்கு கூட வாய்ப்பு இருக்கு. நெக்ஸ்ட், ஆன் திஸ் கான்டெக்ஸ்ட், இஃப் யூ டாக் அபவுட் இட்ஸ் பொசிஷன் வித் இந்தியா, India has been engaging in certain talks with Taliban, but India also personally feels that Taliban in Afghanistan should ensure human rights, right? Inclusive governance. Idellam promote panada, it makes sense. It makes more sense to further engage with them. So overall, this has been the takeaway of this particular article. So in the context of now, we have tried effectively understanding the relationship between Russia and Afghanistan, how it has been evolving with time, right? And its implication in the context of India. So yes, I hope the discussion was useful. Yes, so please keep following our channel. So you will have regular current affairs classes and general discussions, including editorial analysis, which will take place over here. So please do like and subscribe to this channel and participate regularly and become more enriched with your knowledge. At the end of the day, knowledge is power. So wishing you all a very happy, bright Monday and keep studying and stay productive. Thank you.